No, that's my bad. Right, so you just want to be coming up with a plan, right? So the second step to ult tracking is ult ult countering, right? That's the second step, is just countering those ultimates, not just saying that they have them. So that's pretty much it for now, I believe. So that's just where you look to be standing. Just the areas where you are doing really good on are your wall riding, your ability usage especially, and then positioning. I also think is pretty decent as well. We just want to be aware of our surroundings because that will dictate, that'll allow us to use our beat better, that allow us to go in and good on the right targets at the right times and be at the right place at the right times when we're paying attention to what's happening around us, right? You could have the worst mechanics yet be going in at the right time and shooting the 1 HP target, or going on the isolated Ana who can't really contest you too easily and be getting a ton of value. Right? So you can look to go ahead and queue up for a game.
Like support again?
It depends. What do you want to do? It's up to you.
I would like to play
DPS?
game.
Alright, that's completely fine. Doing it. Okay, yep. So here is just Lucio. Let's see. I believe each. I'm streaming, but I believe each group of melee does the same damage, right? So melee does, I believe that's 30, right? Because each bar is 25, right? Boop does the exact same, right? So with two melees and two boops, right, we can get their health down below half, right? It's 120 damage, right? So we can do this quite a bit of times and just be getting them super, super low. Make sure that we are looking to just hit each individual shot, right? So we can land our every shot, not just our first shot, right? So the combo you can also look for to make your shots a little bit easier is to boot people up in the air. Right, when you boot people up in the air, that can mean that you can track them as they're falling down. Sorry, I hear your stream, so I'm gonna stop watching that. Actually, oh, sorry, I stopped streaming my own stream, not stopped watching yours. All right, stop watching. Okay, there it is. Sorry, it was just very loud on my end. All right, so yeah, just you can come in, you can swoop in, boot people up in the air, look to melee and boop as many times. All right, so it kind of looks like something like this, where we boop, right? Just add in some damage. When you get on top of them, you add in the melee, right? Right. So the way that I got really, really good with that is, like, I just played Lucio all the time in quick play. Like, I just redded Lucio'd all the time, right? And I just got really good at wall riding. Now, I'd probably say you're a little bit better than me, but I also was never really too much of a Lucio player. I played Lucio a little bit back when I played support, but I was never Lucio main, right? But I got good at wall riding through playing in quick play, get good at dueling people by playing in quick playing, just practicing my duels, because I just would read it around, do nothing but that, right? So you just want to get good at hitting each individual shot, making sure that you're adding in boops and melees, and that's going to be how you finish off targets decently fast and decently easy. Make sure as well that you're looking for headshots if possible, right? So just make sure you're keeping your crosshair at head level. We're not going to talk too much about this because you're on Lucio, which isn't really a character who needs too much crosshair placement, but you just want to make sure that whenever you're just aiming, that you're aiming at head level so we can hit headshots and do the most damage, right? Because there's a big massive difference between hitting headshots and hitting body shots, right? That's the difference between getting them down to that and getting them down to this, right? Very massive difference. Takes you an entire 2.5 versus 1.5, right? Almost double the damage. Right. Now, I think that is pretty much it. Okay, and yeah, and then just so you can see the aura, you can see how it shows you how many people are in it, right? It does not include you, so if we run off on our own here, right, you can see underneath our crosshair that there is 0, right? There's nothing. We come over here, now it's 1. We come over here to this guy, and now it's 2, right? So it does, you do have, I don't know how high it goes. I believe it might even go up to Skybox. I guess we can test that here. Actually, where can we test that? I don't know where we'd be able to. I guess let's just go up this here. This one's tough to get up. Okay, so you do have a height on it. See, we're like right next to him, but it wasn't registering. So you just want to make sure you're not too high, but you can go decently high and still get them, right? Like we can still see this guy when he's all the way down there. but it's also line of sight based, so you're not gonna be able to see them if they're not in your line of sight, right? It only shows 1 when these guys are right next to us here. You turn, now it's 3, now it's back to 1. Right, so I think that is pretty much it. Yeah, those are the main areas of gameplay we're looking at. I think positioning isn't usually too much of an issue on our Lucio because we are so speedy that a lot of times you don't get punished for positioning. It'd be more like, when are we choosing to go in, and whatnot. But the only thing I would say is just make sure you're sticking next to walls, right? Because sometimes you'd end up like kind of waltzing out in the open here, whereas if you're next to walls all the time, you have the option. It's not necessarily that you should constantly be wall riding around, it's that you have the option to wall ride if needed for speed, for anything, right? You just get around.
This is gonna make you feel better.
Right, so now we're just gonna pretty much wait on you to get in your game.
And there we go.
Traveling to Havana. Prepare your defenses.
Okay, I don't like this map, but because it's a sniper map.
So what DPS do you play?
I play like Tracer, Torp, sometimes Hanzo.
Alright, well this is a really good Hanzo map, and then Torbjorn would be okay here. Jason would probably be the worst of the 3.
With every death comes honor. With honor, redemption. I grow tired of waiting.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
You know, that sake's not half bad, but I prefer a little bite to my liquor.
How predictable. Such an unsophisticated taste.
5, 4, 3.
And good Sonic to start.
Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
Get it done.
Look to just use your Sonic off cooldown. That's just something, an ability that you just want to use all the time. Just get constant awareness of where people are at. Alright. I already see 2 things we're going to go over after this is done. But of course, this is a comp game, so it's going to take forever before we get to them. Make sure you're not half charging shots. Those don't really do much. Not going to be able to effectively shoot people. The only time you're going to half shot is probably when someone's like next to you and they're low, right? Any other time, it's going to be very hard to hit those shots because it's a very slow projectile. And then on top of that, it's not going to do very much damage. So unless they're low and on top of you, it's not going to do much. Okay, that's an awareness thing, right? Make sure we're paying attention to the fact that we're first off we're listening, right, and we're watching for the ball because we know that he's gonna be trying to contest us. He did the same thing just before in the last fight, so make sure we're watching bottom left and we're waiting for him to come up the stairway, right? We can't die there if we're paying attention to our environment and we're watching for where the players are on the map, right?
So predictable.
Can I make this? Yes, I can.
Marked by the dragon.
Okay, he will come from behind again, probably. There he is.
Okay. Now, you're probably not in the habit of this because you're a support player, but make sure you're requesting healing whenever you're low, even on a character like Lucio, so that you can get healing faster, because when you press it, it means that it's giving them an in-game audio cue, right, so that they know where you're at. So even on a character like Lucio, that's not a habit you want to get into, just so that you can get healing faster.
I don't like spamming X because like when I play support I hate it too. Of course sometimes it's help, but like there are some Genji mains out like this.
I'd probably say it's
So-
a very helpful tool, and people who get you probably shouldn't get upset at it because it lets you know where they're at, right, and it lets you know that they need healing. Now spamming it's a little bit different. You press it if you only spam it if you're not getting healed and they're not noticing you, but it lets them know where you are. So it's a very helpful tool to let people know where you are, and try not to get annoyed at that because it's a tool that should be used properly, right? It should be used to let you know where someone's at. Now them just going I need healing when they're full HP is something that you should most definitely not do. But when you're sitting at 40 HP, that's a little bit different.
Oh, we don't have. Yes, we... Okay, that was a lucky shot. It was like thing. There.
See through the dragon's eyes.
Thanks.
Alright, make sure that we're using both our abilities as often as possible. Don't hold on to your storm arrows either. I haven't seen us use them too often. Right, when you just hold on to your abilities, they don't get value, so we want to make sure that we're using them.
Okay.
Right, main reasons why you would use them is when you're bursting someone down, or if you land a first like a body shot, right? So you're just trying to finish them off fast. Alright, pay attention to your health. Don't try to re-engage when you're at 3 HP. Right, again, being an awareness thing, make sure we're watching our health bar, because a lot of the times we end up sitting at very low health when we could be getting healed.
Alright. Like, but at this point I would swap, to be honest. I would swap my Hanzo because it's like obvious I can't hit a shot. Sometimes I do. I heard him, but I didn't realize it. Like he hits me, but I can't hit him. And now I probably want to swap my position.
Well, make sure we're not using our ult in a fight that's already been won, right? On Lucio you use it defensively, but on any other character you use it in any fight that's not been won or lost yet, right? But that fight was most definitely lost, or sorry, won, most definitely won. So in that situation, that's just a wasted ultimate because they're already down like 4 or 5 people.
Oh, I shouldn't peek again.
Yep. Again, make sure you're not half charging your shots, but yes, exactly when somebody, especially in sniper duels, right, when they locate you, make sure you're rotating faster.
Alright.
Nice ults. I'd probably say one of the biggest things that you could probably do to help out with your aim is just lower sensitivity and get a new mouse pad. You know, sensitivity in general is something that can be very preference based, but for the most part, at high levels of play, unless you're playing a tank that require like you're playing a main tank or something like that, you're gonna want a lower sensitivity for more precise shots, because when you have a lower sensitivity, you can be more in control of where your shot's going, and therefore hit headshots easier, but hit shots easier. When you have a high sensitivity, you end up kind of overshooting a lot of the times because you just adjust a tiny little bit and you end up going way too far. So it's very difficult to control precise movement with a high sensitivity, and that's especially going to be apparent when you're on a character like Hanzo, because Hanzo requires most of the time is going to require lower sensitivity than a character like Lucio is going to. Like, I'd probably say your sensitivity might be a little bit too high for even a character like Lucio, right? But you're especially going to notice that when you're on a character like Hanzo that requires a lot of aim intensive, shooting, whereas Lucio is a lot more ability based, a lot more, just movement and knowing what to do a lot of the times, right?
But are people, I mean, can people that play like Widow with a low sensitivity, can they play Genji or
Yep.
Tracer?
I have a pretty low sensitivity, and I play pretty much everything. I don't have a different sensitivity on any role character that I play, though. You can swap your different sensitivities. I personally is never a fan of swapping sensitivities. I have a probably say pretty average sensitivity. I have 4.5 by 800 DPI.
Okay, that's a lot less DPI than I have.
Yep. Which I ended up doing a lot of research and looking at like what's the average sensitivity for professionals, and that's going to be more towards your average when it comes to support and DPS players. Tank players do have it a lot higher. Right, make sure we're paying attention to what's up with our team, and we're not engaging when our entire team is sitting back like that, because when our entire team sits back like that, they can all turn and look at us and shoot at us. So we want to be in sync with our team and not hard engaging when our team's not hard engaging. Instead, we just want to sit back and poke a little bit, just kind of wait for an opportunity, right? When it comes to Tracer's playstyle, you essentially are going to be trying to get into their side or back line, and you're going to poke and poke and poke, distract them, and then look for an opportunity to go in. Same thing as Lucio. And good cover usage. I like our positioning. Just in general, make sure you're positioning yourself on their side or back lines, right? Exactly kind of what we did on the first time we pushed in. We just kind of engaged at the wrong time there. Very, very nice.
Oh,
that's why you
press. They have a McCree.
Exactly. That's why you press tab in between
shit.
fights, right? That's where awareness comes into play, because when you're aware of the team composition, you play differently up against different characters, right?
So when I play Tracer, it's more like just poking from behind than trying to dive a hero, or what?
It's opportunity based. So the exact same thing we were talking about with Lucio is you go in when you can poke and poke and poke until you see someone who's low or see someone who's out of position, or when you make someone low just by shooting at them, or if you get your pulse bomb, right? So you can make your own opportunities, same thing as you can make your own opportunities on Lucio, right? You can just poke and poke and poke until they're 1 HP like that Sigma was, right? But you don't want to just hard engage right away before you have an opportunity to go in. Good target priority there.
Now I see the discard and I may well can't. That was useless.
Sure, when you're kind of on a flank and behind people, you're adding in crouches to make your movement quieter and make it harder for them to find you. When try to back out there a lot faster, especially when you see it's a 2v1, right? You don't want to take duels where you know that you're at a disadvantage. Same thing as Lucio, right? You don't go in when you see it's a 2v1. Instead, you back up fast as you can so you don't end up dying there.
Do I need to contest the McCree or probably yes, right?
Yep,
Because nobody else can.
Either or, right? Or the supports. The Kree dropped kind of inside of you guys, and we didn't see them. So again, another awareness thing. Very nice pulse. Pulse bomb's looking fantastic so far. Maybe only thing I would say is just use it earlier on in the fight, but that's it. And the only thing I would say is just don't look to contest the tanks as much when the fight's happening. Right now the fight's done, right? So we can look to kill them. But when it comes to target priorities, right, you shoot at DPS and supports unless there are sometimes we do shoot at tanks, right? We shoot at tanks when they're low, when they're out of position, right? If they're only thing to shoot at. Sorry, I'll keep talk after this fight.
Thought I could blink over it. I know the Moira isn't Fate.
Sometimes we blink unnecessarily when we don't really have many people shooting at us. Keep in mind, like, you have two uses out of your blinks, right? You have mobility, and you can use it defensively to avoid abilities, right? Sometimes we end up using it when we don't need the mobility and when we don't really have anybody shooting at us, right? So we just want to pay attention to another, again, awareness that affects this. When are people looking at us? When are people shooting at us? Because sometimes we end up blinking when it's not necessary, and then that just throws off our aim and throws off our ability to kill people.
I don't know if I need to take like the long flank, or if I can
Probably
just
do the
roll
short
here.
one. You don't have to go in the long one because they're gonna be fighting on the short one anyways.
Oh. There is like a mega around here, right? Yes.
Don't walk into the ball, right? That way you don't take damage. In between fights, make sure you're positioning to the best place possible. So we probably want to be already starting off on their flanks, so we don't have to do that mid-fight. Don't jump. That just is a little bit louder. Good target focus there, and not shooting at the Moira.
Where is she? Behind me. Okay, I was scared that he could maybe kill me.
Oh, dying with 3 blinks, right? Make sure we're not out in the open there. We're not running out in the open until we die easily, and then we're also using our blinks. We're not just standing still, right? So whenever you die with a bunch of abilities, it's a good indication that you made a mistake. Right? Deaths are a very easy way that you can look to learn and improve from them.
Should I have gone for the turret, or was it right that I tried to kill Mercy?
So in that situation, I think going for the Mercy if you see that she's low is good. Right? It's everything's always gonna be situational when it comes to the game. If Mercy's low, you can maybe go for Mercy. If she's not low, then you might want to take out the turret. Right. So I'm gonna be streaming here real quick, and then we'll just go over a quick review and wrap up for everything we talked about, and you can stop streaming if you want to. So, I'd probably say the biggest thing that I noticed across both characters was just our kind of play style and how we were approaching the game. Typically, that's not too often what people's problems are. You kind of have you kind of have like 5 main categories. You have abilities, ultimates, positioning, awareness, and mechanics, right? Typically, I don't talk too much about play styles, but probably that was like the big thing that it looked like was the problem with us on Tracer and Lucio was playing as an opportunist would play, right? And that applies to both characters because both of them can duel and get around the map very frequently and easily. So here we'll just go around the block real quick. Lucio, your abilities usage is fantastic, no problems there. Ultimates, make sure we're really putting a lot of effort into them. Now, Tracer and Lucio probably said this was different. On Tracer, we actually had really good pulse bombs most of the time, and we used it correctly, and most of the time we didn't hold on to it. We didn't. We used it at the right timing. But on Lucio, we ended up beating out of the. I saw 3 beats. Right, one of them was good. 2 of them we ended up using when it was too late. Right, we ended up using it after everyone was dead. So we want to make sure we're using it earlier on, and or we're just holding on to it when we see people are dead in the fight that we had lost. Okay, so we just want to make sure being aware of our environment and not using it in the wrong times. Right, now moving on to just mechanics, I guess. We didn't actually get to talk over this, but real quick with your just Hanzo gameplay, right? And Tracer as well. Right, this is just crosshair placement basically. Now this is something that I think that you were decent at. Just make sure you're keeping this up consistently, because once you get up to higher ranks like Diamond, it's a lot about consistency and making sure you're just getting better at all the small things that add up over time. On basically good crosshair placement means that you place your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the easiest shots. So rather than aiming at body level, where obviously body shots don't do anything, or you want to make sure that we are aiming head level, so up here, that makes shots easier to hit because we have to adjust less. That also means that when we're just spamming down a corridor, right, we hit headshots rather than body shots, right? So we're aiming down the corridor, we hit headshots, right? It just makes shots a lot easier to hit when we're aiming here. Right. We also want to pre-aim where we know people are going to be. So if we know he's top left, we're already aiming at head level at the doorway here. So there's very little adjustment for when we actually have to hit this shot, right? Because we're already aiming there. Okay. Now moving on back to, sorry, our Lucio, right? Besides that, wall riding is looking fantastic. Positioning wasn't really too much of a problem with our Lucio. So just want to make sure you're sticking next to walls, and that was pretty much it. Your positioning on the other characters is also pretty decent in terms of using cover. So in general, like, you know, good positioning is the usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover. If we're standing on the open, we can't really do much and we're going to die very easily, right? But we just want to make sure we're sticking next to walls, doorways, corners, right? Now, things that do need work, mechanics on our Lucio, right? Make sure that we are individually trying to aim each 4 shots, because we can hit multiple of these, right, on different people, right? Because you can aim all of them. So we want to make sure we're tracking, not just trying to hit the first shot, but we're changing, we're adjusting your crosshair to hit all 4. Right, lower your sensitivity, I would probably recommend, as most people, like most professional players, will have that a bit lower. You know, you don't have to take it as low as mine is, because you do play Lucio, which doesn't require as much pixel precision as playing a DPS would need, but you're still going to want it a little bit lower than what you have at right now, because that is a little too high. Right, and then you also would probably need to get a bigger mouse pad as well, which you can get those for like $10–20, as that will, you can't really have a lower sensitivity with a tiny mouse pad. Right, now moving on from there, just make sure when you're dueling people that you're adding in boops and melees, as that does a lot of consistent easy damage, right? Makes it very easy for you to kill people. Right, get right up in their face when you're on top of people, especially when they don't have stuns for you. I didn't mention this before, but you know, it's a lot harder to miss shots when you are literally right here on somebody, right? Because it's very difficult to miss that when you're right up on top of someone, and also puts you in range for your boops. So unless it's something that can stun you very easily, look to get right up next to them and inside of them. All right, this is easy, especially if you're coming in with a lot of speed, because actually I can't. They backed off, right? This is easy if you're coming in with a lot of speed, because you can kind of boop them and be inside of them at the same time. Right now, moving on from mechanics, that was a bigger category. Onto awareness. Awareness is probably one of the biggest things. Just make sure that you are paying attention to those things around you. So pay attention to what's up with your team and the enemy team. Pay attention to compositions because those affect your gameplay and your and how you're approaching the game. Make sure you're paying attention to ultimates, as that affects how you're using your beat, affects how you're using just how you're positioning and using your abilities, right, and everything. Right, so just pay attention to your environment and really focus in general, focus in on the things that you're trying to work on, right? One category or 1 to 3 sub things, right? Then you really focus in on it, and it becomes a habit. Moving on to like kind of play style, Lucio and Tracer, make sure you're playing as an opportunist, right? So we're looking to take duels when someone is low, out of position, when you're just poking at them right from a distance, so you make them low, right? So we see that he's one now, so now we can go in super aggro on him, right, and get in on them. Right, same thing that you're kind of doing on your Tracers. You're trying to charge a pulse and make them low. Right now, on to Hanzo, just make sure you're using your abilities a lot more. Other than that, I only saw a couple of dragon or two. Make sure you're not using it when we've won the fight. Tracer, only thing I would say with positioning is just make sure you're positioning on the sides or behind them. And your play style is basically we poke, unless we make them, we get an opening by making them low, right? That we're making an opportunity for ourselves. But we don't want it to just instantly go and use all our abilities, because then most of the time that's not going to work too well because they just get pocketed, right? We want to wait for an opportunity, wait till they're low, wait till they're out of position, wait till we make them low, wait till we get pulse bomb, right? Then we can go in aggressively when we have it, and we can use these abilities, right, and get some kills, right? Other than that, I think our ability usage is pretty fine. Just make sure you're not blinking when it's not necessary, as sometimes we did that when like people weren't even really looking at us, so that comes down to awareness as well. And that is pretty much it. So main things to work on, right? Number one is probably going to be your playstyle, as that was a big thing on our Tracer and our Lucio especially, was just how we're approaching the game and how we're playing our characters. Is we want to make sure that we're looking for opportunities, okay, to duel people. Don't duel people when you have a disadvantage. You don't want to go in when they have more health, or when they have more teammates with them, right? Or they have a health pack next to them, or they just have some advantage. You don't want to take that. You want to take fights where you have the advantage, right? That's why we look for opportunities to go in. Another awareness thing was just paying attention to our health bar. That was another thing that we needed to work on. Now, okay, so we talked about playstyles, number one. Probably say number two is going to be our awareness. Number three is going to be followed up by mechanics. Now, mechanics is a big deal, but it's also kind of not a big major thing on a character like Lucio, and that's the main character you're looking to play. It is probably mechanics would be a lot higher if we're talking specifically about Tracer and Hanzo. So I probably would put mechanics for Tracer and Hanzo as number two, and then swap that out with awareness. But on Lucio, awareness is going to be just a little bit higher of an issue, and then mechanics is coming in at number three, right? And then on from there, positioning wasn't really an issue at all. Just a tiny little bit on some of the characters, so that's going to go near the bottom. Ability usage was wasn't an issue at all on Lucio, but it was a little bit on Tracer, right? So those were kind of a little bit backwards. So positioning mattered on Tracer and Hanzo. Ability usage mattered on Tracer and Hanzo, but those did not matter on Lucio. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, and then ultimates in general, I think our ultimate usage on Lucio needed a lot of work, but our ultimate usage on the other characters didn't need as much work. All right, any questions about anything we've gone over?
Nope.
All right.
I don't think so.
Well then, I am going to end the recording.